Check. Check 1, 2.
I'm still behind the camera. That's my place.
Check, check, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check, check, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
That sounds good. All right. You should actually. I should be getting audio without needing to switch over to video. So once the camera's set, I'm pretty much gonna just peek over your shoulder and watch.
Audio check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Should be getting audio.
Check. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
See that? Did that pop over? It flashed for a second. What? Can you go over to the? There it goes. Where's the black? Going at 720p. Still black?
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
What time is it? A couple minutes till. Totally worked for the press conference, why is it not? Um, yeah, there should be one that's like 25 feet.
Green show? Green?
Yeah. Up top. I'm gonna hang on to these anyway. So I might have to do this differently. Anything right? The camera to work? Yeah. It worked perfectly the other day. And I didn't change anything. You can jump in and say we have technical difficulties. We'll get this started soon. Should get the leaderboard back in a second. You got the leaderboard back? The leaderboard's back. One guy said he's ready. Look for him. Got blue. That's interesting. Now I'm getting level. Check 1, 2. Did it? Yeah, it went offline. Yeah. At least now I'm getting levels on my mixer.
Check 1, 2.
Should I just bring my
Watch out.
So I would be like a replay.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's fine.
All right, let's put it. How we go then?
I would head out the Ducks.
All right.
I think you can start after the question.
Should I start playing right now?
Yeah, you can play and answer questions. Streaming the
All right, so I should play right now.
doesn't have to play. I mean, we do it first. Whatever you prefer.
Okay. Let's do this first.
Yeah, it might be easier so we don't confuse your play.
Okay, cool. All right.
So that should sound good.
All right. All right, guys. We're going to do a brief question and answer segment here. It'll be on the. Well, actually, this will be the replay. So there you go.
Are we on this feed? Maybe you need to go a little bit this way.
This will be good. Now we're on everything.
Now we're on everything.
All right, cool. Oh, we should. You know what? Should I have this mic? Can I talk into both at the same time? It'll be okay. All right.
I think that's probably better.
It's good.
This one
All right.
goes for the live feed, so why don't you take that? Why don't you take the lead?
All right. All right. You want me to ask you the first question?
Go ahead.
All right. So we're going to read questions to each other that fans have sent in. So this one is for you. It is the Brains versus AI tournament. Sorry, the Brains versus AI tournament. Number of hands seems large to humans, but is obviously small relative to Cloudico's previous training. Looking at trends over the first few days, and without going into actual details of Cloudico's algorithms, what's the likelihood that earlier training has resulted in a local minimum that's difficult to escape? Local minimum.
And I say who asked the question.
From Nick from Pittsburgh.
Okay, so it is true that the number of hands that we've played here against these humans is tiny compared to how much poker Cloudico has played against itself to learn to play. So again, Cloudico's strategy is not manually programmed in. Rather, we develop algorithms that automatically generate the strategy for Cloudico, and those require huge numbers of iterations. So yeah, this number of hands, something like 26,000, is a tiny number compared to that. The second part was about local minima. So some iterative algorithms have local minimums, so they get stuck to a local optimum. But the algorithms that we run in Cloudico are not like that, so I'm not worried about local optima there. I have to be a little bit careful not to give all the details out yet, but that's not the issue. And as to performance, you were asking about whether it's Cloudico's improvement or whether it's just the ebb and flow of the game. And if you think about it, you know, we did worst on day 1. We did better on day 2, which may have suggested that we got better on day 3. And then we did terrible on day 4. So that suggests that there's at least a large element of ebb and flow here rather than improvement. There's clearly a little bit of improvement day to day in Cloudico, but I think it's almost all ebb and flow so far.
Wasn't sorry, I forgot. It's this mic. Wasn't day 3? Day 3, we won some, right? I believe that day 1 the humans had like a very big day. Day 2, Cloudico had a pretty good sized day, won like 70 or 80,000. Day 3, I believe the humans regained a bit of a lead, right? Or am I remembering this incorrectly? Sorry, day 3 was what?
No, what?
Yeah, humans won day 3. I'm not exactly sure, but we had a good day 3, and then we had a great day 4, and then day 5 just starts out awful. So it's kind of hard to really say much about which day at all, you know.
Okay, sorry, I misremembered what happened in day 3. I'm the absent-minded professor, and here I'm sitting with the world's best poker player here next to me, who has a massive memory. So whenever we disagree on something about what happened in the past, you can just trust Doug to say the right thing and discount me.
Don't be so modest.
Well, anyway, I think we're on the same page with Doug about this being almost all ebb and flow so far. So let me ask a question of Doug then. This is a question from Bruce in New Jersey. Bruce asks, is fatigue starting to come into play for the guys?
So that's a good question because we are human, and playing this many hands a day, it does take its toll. We don't have the same vigor that we had to play on day one. So fatigue playing a role, but at the same time, it's not like what we're doing is at least physically draining, it's mentally. So with a good night's rest and eating well and really trying to stay focused, we're able to stay relatively overall like not fatigued. But you know, some for sure. We're not going to lie and say that every day we wake up is a walk in the park, because that park has 8 hours of poker hands in it. So we're just happy to get the chance to play, and we're going to keep doing our best regardless of the heavy workload. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, I'm going to ask the next question. Do you have something you want to say? Are you? No. No. Yeah.
All right. I can just give some observations about the human team that I've seen here. So they are taking this very seriously. They are maximizing the rest. They are stretching every morning here on the floor. They are eating healthy. They are eating oatmeal in the mornings, unsweetened, and taking care of their health here. So they are trying to keep the human stamina up. And that's great. But I have to say one thing that I saw after the games yesterday. 2 of the humans enjoyed a glass of red wine. And of course, it doesn't play any real role in this, but I think it was a jinx. I think it cursed today, and we're very happy it happened.
Well, there you go. And nothing says I mean business like a bowl of unsweetened oatmeal. All right, so I'll go ahead and ask you the next question then. This question is from Nick from Pittsburgh. The question is, does Claudico differentiate opponents, potentially evolving its strategy differently for different opponents?
Yeah, so Claudico keeps changing its strategy 24/7 on the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center's Blacklight supercomputer. So the strategy improves all the time. It's conceivable that it will play differently against the different opponents.
So basically what you're saying is it's learning how to beat us individually, and you don't want to say anything.
No comment.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a second question, because apparently people just want to talk to you more than they want to talk to me. So it's okay, I get it. So the next question is from Brian from Pittsburgh. And the question is, any chance you turn Claudico into a computer game? Would love to play Claudico heads up and see how I do compared to the pros.
That's a great question. I think it's tremendously fun to play. Like last night, I took a few hands against it, and it was hard to get off. So it's definitely a fun thing to play against, and also I think it would make a great training tool. Our plans of what we will do with Claudico or the next generation versions after Claudico are not clear yet, but definitely there's a lot of interesting stuff that could be done there.
Okay, cool. Actually, I think the next question should go back to you asking me. All right. Yep.
All right.
All right, Doug. So for the streamers, you probably know by now who's who, but I'm sitting here with Doug Polk, the #1 heads-up no-limit Texas Hold'em player in the world. And I found it a great honor to be able to sit right next to this guy and look at him play poker. And I have to say that I've learned a lot. I probably learned very little of the things that I could have learned here, because it's so difficult. But at least I've learned some, and it's been tremendous fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's been great to be here, and I don't mind explaining some of the various poker terms to you. That's fine.
All right. I've noticed that you don't talk about strategy completely, and I completely understand we don't either. But I've learned even from just what you've been gracious enough to share. I've learned a lot personally. All right. So let's move to the next question. This is from Amy in Pittsburgh. Doug, what were you listening to on your headphones yesterday?
So I like to mix it up when I'm playing. Sometimes I won't listen to anything, but that's usually not what I'm doing, especially when I have longer sessions that I have to play. Yesterday specifically, I just had it on a general trance playlist, so just various EDM, various artists. But it kind of depends what mood I'm in. Like, if I'm like getting ready to like run some bluffs and like, you know, let people know what's up, definitely putting on the rap station on Pandora and like get a little fitty in there and let them know what's good. But then like, you know, it's good to mix it up, and it kind of depends on the mood you're in. If like you're on a downswing, you gotta rock some Coldplay. Scientist is a great way to leave the money behind and move on to the next chapter.
Very good, very good. I think I actually jumped the gun on. Is there one more question there?
No, the last question is actually for you, so I'll go ahead and read it off. So Donnie from Toronto asks, can you say that Clodico is learning, or is it just the ebb and flow of the hands and game at this point?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Clodico is learning all the time. It's running on the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center's Blacklight supercomputer 24/7, and it's improving its strategy. That said, what we're seeing here in the competition so far at about 26,000 hands, we're not even halfway into this race yet. I think this is almost entirely ebb and flow so far.
Well said from the player losing. No, I'm kidding. I guess I'll like also just say my thoughts there. You know, this certainly is a lead, but as we can see from the morning session, it's a lead that can diminish quickly, and it can go from having quite the advantage to not so much. So I wouldn't say that it's entirely irrelevant, because even I'm sure as you know, some sample is better than no sample. So the most likely indicator is that the humans have an edge. But kind of going the other way, you don't know what adjustments and how good the computer is getting over time. It could be that in these sessions that we don't have an advantage, and that by day 10 we're just praying that this ends so that we can like lock onto the lead. So I would say that I would expect big swings both ways to come, and there's still a lot of punches yet to be thrown.
That's for sure. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk to the stream about right now? That's all the questions we got so far. Oh, no, there's more questions. Is there? Okay, more questions have poured in. Just a second.
Yeah, a question came through asking, how many big blinds due to misclicks do you think the four of you lose in win rate versus the bot?
The question from what I heard was, how much do we think that we lose in misclicks versus the bot? And I had a interesting revelation yesterday. I was actually talking with Noam here. Basically, I'm not sure that the misclicks end up being as bad as they do seem. They certainly cost you something. But if the computer program is playing a balanced counter strategy, it will adjust to size. So when I accidentally monster 9x over a limp, it now plays tighter. So it's probably a losing play, but much less than you would think. So I guess it kind of depends. Like, there's been no serious misclicks. Like, let's just say it gets to the river and you misclick, go all in, and it calls. That could obviously be very expensive. But as we found out yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? I don't know, they all blend together. But what we found out before was sometimes misclicks can actually make you some money. I had a hand earlier where I was trying to have a sip of coffee to like stay motivated and energized, and I raised king 4, took a drink, came back, raised king 4, because I had not remembered I had already raised it, and Clodico had 3-bet me, and I 4-bet, and it called. So as I look up at the screen, the pot is huge, and I flop 1 pair and turn it into 2 pair, and then stack Clodico. So I guess you could say so far, overall, misclicks are winning us about 20K.
Very nice, very nice. How do you feel about this next session?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like, I try to always like hold strong for like the sake of the human team. I find that we end up being, you know, like a very good example of this is Bjorn. We end up being very emotionally attached to like the results of one session, and I try to just when we get back, you know, put it in perspective, see what we can learn, and like not get too like upset or happy, or just always keep it in perspective. I think there's been way too many people in our group. We were talking at dinner last night, a conversation that's been brought up a lot. What stakes do we think Cloudicode could beat online? And you just have all the answers. You just have someone's like, it could just beat everyone up to high stakes, and like it might even be beating us. And like obviously Jason has a strong feeling that it's good, and then Bjorn's like, oh no wait, like this oh no, you can't even beat mid stakes. And then like today Bjorn loses a ton, and then at the break he's like, I actually think the bot's pretty good. Like it's getting a lot better. And like I'm just trying to stay really consistent and avoid my human emotion here. I think the bot is good. I think it could beat a lot of players online. I think it still is maybe a little weaker than the top players, but I would not be surprised if as it gets stronger, it even has an edge. So I'm just trying to be the grounded like base for the humans that keeps us realistic on what we can expect.
Great. And can you talk about, there was some sort of misunderstanding on that point. I was sitting right here when you talked about the ratings that you gave the bot, and made a lot of sense, but some reporters put it in the press and kind of misquoted you. Do you want to correct that in the stream?
Yeah, for sure. And this isn't the first quote we've had a problem with, right? But so there was a question that was asked to me, I don't know, the first day or the second day. It was pretty early on. And the question was, Doug, compare this bot to the average player that you play on a scale of 1 to 10. And that question is, and when it was asked, I don't know if they knew this, but it's so pointed to make Cloudicode look bad, because the average player I play is like an elite player, a top level player. So when I said a 4 or a 5, I didn't mean that compared to any player it's a 4 or a 5. I think Cloudicode is quite good. I think compared to the field, it would definitely be beating a lot of the regulars. I just didn't think that it was, let's say, above average of the top players that I've played, which is a notable difference. I think that maybe it's like on a scale of 1 to 10 of all players, somewhere in the 9s. It's obviously very good. It's it runs bluffs. It knows how to hero call, and overall, I like its decisions. Now, I think maybe it isn't quite as good as the top humans. I think that we still have an edge, but it's a long 2 weeks, and I guess we'll see how that goes afterwards.
Great, thank you. There's more questions.
Which one? How about that? I like that.
Yeah, which one do you like, that one? Or what about that? About less?
Our player asked, what would be your edge in big blinds over Jason? Was there another opponent that you both have played? They were asking, what would be your edge in big blinds over Jason? And are there other opponents that you've played? That's what they're asking.
I believe that the question was, what would my edge be over Jason? And what was the second part? What would my edge be over that me and Jason have played?
Well, the unfortunate truth of the game of Heads Up No Limit is that there is a ladder, and you always play the guy right above or right below you. You don't swing for the fences. You can always just play in AAA. So you gotta wait your time before you move up to the big leagues. And I have not really gotten the opportunity to play a lot of players that Jason has played, so I can't really use that as a bar to differentiate us as far as our opponents. I've also not played Jason, and Jason's a friend of mine, so there's not likely to be a sample between us. I think there's maybe a few things that I'm better at with Jason as far as recognizing maybe a misconception and weaknesses of the bot. But overall, I would only have a few big blind edge on Jason. He's a very strong opponent, and he knows poker very well.
Sure. Okay. So the question is there anything learned in this challenge that would change my strategy when I once again play human opponents? So far, I would say no. There are things that we kind of have to study and think about. One of the problems with being a human player is you don't naturally balance things, so I can't just throw something in and it'll be balanced. I'd have to fully understand both sides of it. What hands, what bluffs, what value bets, do I like it? Does this make sense? And I'm not going to be able to play however many billions of hands versus myself to see if it's good. So I think that initially there might be a few small things that I don't want to go too much into that I might implement, but that will be a more of a post-challenge question that we can try and take something away from, rather than in the middle of the challenge try and implement those strategies. We have a little time.
Any more questions?
If we can do another 5 or 10 minutes.
Yes. He's really answered most of these questions here. He's really answered most of these.
All right, so that was fun. We have a kind of a fortunate coincidence here in that today at Carnegie Mellon University, the artificial intelligence seminar speaker is Kevin Layton Brown from the University of British Columbia. He's a professor there of artificial intelligence in the computer science department and a good friend of mine. And I thought that since the AI seminar and this event happened to coincide so nicely, I'd show Kevin what this is about. And since Kevin is now here, I thought that it would be nice to have Kevin say a few words about his thoughts about this. Kevin.
I don't get any questions. Just my thoughts about this?
Just your thoughts.
Oh, good lord.
He kind of let you hang out to dry here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, hi, how's it going?
Hey, yeah, pretty good. Well, I mean, it's really exciting to see you guys playing. Oh, sorry, I'm too far away. Yeah, it's exciting to see actual pros here willing to play the computer. I think it's such a grind to be willing to play a statistically significant number of hands. I think you're heroes. Because seriously, I mean, you're doing science, but it's hard work to actually do as much as it takes to actually show the signal here. And at the same time, probably there's still a lot of variation. I mean, I wonder for you, what does it feel like? Are you, you're probably seeing a lot of runs where sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. You don't know if they're changing the bot or if it's really just random variation. I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like Cloutico's been changing in a significant way, or do you think it's just bouncing around?
Well, as the classic song goes, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And so far, the human team has been holding them pretty well. We are worried that the changes in the future that we don't get any comments on could be significant enough that beat us, or there's always the worry that the short-term fluctuations are so significant that our lead doesn't mean anything. I don't know if our lead is significant or not. It's kind of hard to say in terms of like total win rate. So you really do need to get this whole sample in. Even 80,000 hands, that's not a lot of hands compared to the types of matches that go down between computers. So it's a mix. It's a mix, and we've had some good runs of cards like me and Bjorn, and we've had some bad runs of cards like Dong, and we've had some really, really bad runs of cards like Jason. I can't even count how many times I get a nice hand and win all the chips, and I'm like, ooh, that's going to be a tough one for Jason. It's like the running joke. It's like, glad I'm not Jason, and then of course the forums and everyone just like goes crazy and is way too results orientated. So we're going to battle it out, try and keep the fortitude to go through it, but thank you for all of the nice comments about us trying to further this study.
So I know that in the research on algorithmic players for human games, often the human experts say that the algorithmic players do really weird things in sort of off-path play. That when they're presented with the right kinds, the sort of normal kinds of situations, they do sensible things. But if you mess them up a little bit, then they do ridiculous things. Have you found that about Cloutico, or do you find the play to be pretty robust?
It's a mixed bag. There's a bunch of strategies that are very weird that we face somewhat consistently that you just would not see versus a human opponent. We are under the impression, in what we've seen so far, that they are balanced. So we think that they're not inherently bad, but there's just a lot of interesting conclusions that are being drawn. Like, when I see a hand being played and I see a line being taken by a player, I'm trying to use that to come to conclusions, right? That's like, as humans, we can group things, we can come to conclusions. That's where our strengths are. And we try to draw from that. And then there's some things that I understand, but then there's some things like the hands it chooses to go all in with, it just I don't get it sometimes, you know? I don't get when it leads, it has this river strategy where it bets 10% to you on the river. So like you bet the turn, he calls, and the river he just throws a 10% out at you. So it's just like a little chip. It's just like barely even there. And you're like, what is this? Like he's just like, it's like, you know what it would be like for people? It would be insulting. Like, you think you can just bet a little bit at me and get me to full? Well, I'll show you who's the computer, you know, whatever. It's just like, you just go crazy versus it, right? So now we have a whole new set of problems. How do we deal with this? What are we going to bluff with? What are we going to value bet with? Should we call it with bad hands? What's it doing it with? What's going on with it? So, you know, the more that things like that happen, the more confusion that happens on the human end where we're not as able to adjust to what's going on. But we've been doing some of our own for throwing it right back at there, right? So we've been doing lots of like min bets and spots, trying to make the game tree larger, trying to like get them out of it. You know what's kind of like, if you play someone really good in chess, you try and play an opening that they don't know. Because like, yeah, you know, like you're still going to lose, don't get me wrong. There's way less variance in chess than poker. But at least if you get them out of some opening lines that they're familiar with and kind of get them into a position that they haven't studied, you have more of a chance. Now, I don't like that analogy because I think we're the favorite. But we're still trying to play openings that we know our opponent hasn't prepared for as much. And we're going to keep doing that for the remainder of this challenge.
So the things that Clodico's doing that feel to you like they're kind of weird, do you feel like it's found new points in the space that are sort of equally good or maybe a little bit better that are just surprising? Or do you think these are flaws? Maybe a bit of both, but I mean, what do you think the balance is?
That's an extremely hard question to answer. So you're basically asking me, you know, is the algorithm flawed? And that's just so hard to say from like a brief sample of hands. Well, maybe I'm asking, have you learned anything from it? I mean, do you see doing surprising things that in retrospect make sense? Or is it just always hard to understand why it does weird things? I think that, for example, one thing that's almost certainly correct that it does is it's never afraid to go all in at any point, whereas it's going to get stacked. Like, you don't want to sit down, buy in, put your money on the table, and then there's $300 out there, so you shove 30K and hope they fold. Like, humans don't like bets. Too much risk, not enough reward, you can lose all your chips. And Clodico does that a ton. That's very different. You have to approach that differently. You have to go in knowing those are going to happen. You have to, you know, because maybe do it to Ipsum. We've definitely won a few hands doing it back to him. So, you know, like, those things are good for sure. It's just within that there's a lot of categories. Like, is it good here? Is it good there? Is it good there? And then like category 1, good. Category 2, category 3, pretty good. Category 4, whoa, what is it doing here? You know, category 5, like, wow, that I can't believe they would do it with that head. You know, so like you really go through each, and I really was going to make a category 5 hurricane joke, and I was just like, don't do it. So basically, like, I'm just trying to like understand all of them, and we have various conclusions that we don't want to kind of give away what we think about each particular board texture, but there are certain spots it's very good and should be used more often, and certain spots that it might still need a little bit of refinement.
Okay, one last question for you. So based on game theory, heads up versus 3-player is radically different, right? I think theoretically we understand pretty well how to play heads up, and it's a question of getting the computational methods to work, you know, within the computers that we've got, actually getting, you know, playing the max-min strategy on feasible modern computers. But in contrast, I think it's almost a philosophical problem to think about how to play poker with more than three or more people. And I guess you guys play against multiple opponents all the time. So do you feel like these are radically different games? Or do you think it's very much the same kind of, is more of a continuous gradation as you gain opponents?
We've got a joke within my circle of friends, and the fastest way to lose money is to add another person, because we are not that good at that form of poker compared to heads up. You start playing with 3 or 4 people, it gets to be pretty difficult. And there were some interesting points that were brought up yesterday when I was talking with Noam, that basically one player can just decide, I don't like guy A. I like guy B a lot. I'm going to make decisions that guy A can no longer, or that guy A can no longer win, and guy B will win a ton, because like, I really don't care about my money, but I want that guy to win. And there is nothing as guy A that you can do. There is no strategy you can play. I don't like that. I like me, them, what I do matters, and I can beat that guy. I don't like that added element. The games are very different. The games don't allow you to play as many hands. They don't allow you as many opportunities to create edge. the game tree is infinitely larger. I guess maybe one of the reasons I've always had success at Heads Up is that it's easier to quantify what the problems even are to find solutions to, whereas in Three-Handed, it's hard to really even know what question you're trying to answer.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for giving me some of your time. I really look forward to watching you get into it with Clodico, and all the best. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. All right, we're good. Can I start playing? I'm about to get started here, I think. Oh,
yeah, go ahead. This will be interesting. Here we go.
Let's do this. All right, I'm gonna start grinding here. Thanks, everyone. All right, let's get this going. Sorry for the viewers, but we got some catching up to do, so we gotta put some music.
You will receive $45,000 with a minimum bet of $500 and a half bet of $10,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
And remember, speak up ahead of 17 months. Here's that jackpot total. We're at $500 cash this week. Good luck.
What's up?
That was really good.
Thank you.
Like, always seems to find a nice balance between politically correct.
quick. We're having some technical difficulties upstairs, so I'm going to put this on break, but hopefully that gets figured out soon and we can get back going. So, talk to you in a bit.